Liberians home and abroad listening, private partners who continue to support this sector. It is a very blessed pleasure to be here to interact with the media, having assumed office 7 months ago at the National Fisheries and Aquaculture Authority. Allow me to start to describe how we met the National Fisheries and Aquaculture Authority. If we all know what an Edo soup is, do we all know what an Edo soup is? Wonderful. Looks very calm on the top, very cold on the top, but hot at the bottom. That's how we met NaFAA. When we assumed office in March 2025, we inherited a $3.1 million liability. Also government institutions, vendors, international partners, and others. We met a bank balance of $350,000 US. That should tell you that we were headed for a rough road against a liability of $3.1 million. Paradoxically, in 2018, when the National Bureau of Fisheries was transformed to NaFAA, my predecessor met a bank balance of little over $1 million US with zero liabilities. So that should also tell you that the National Bureau of Fisheries actually kicked off far before NaFAA was established by the Act of Legislature in 2017. We believe that we had a huge task to accomplish. And so with approval from the Board of Directors, we quickly transferred all of the liabilities to the General Auditing Commission for verification of those liabilities. Those liabilities are being verified in the 2024 audit that is presently ongoing at NaFAA. What we also met was a staff workforce that were demoralized and disenchanted. Demoralized because of work environment, demoralized because of ill treatment, demoralized because of the kind of culture that was exhibited at NaFAA. Several employees were wrongfully dismissed. And even though they were wrongfully dismissed, they took redress at the labor court and won their cases. And so we had a challenge to be able to discuss with them, negotiate with them on payment terms, and reinstated all of those staff that were wrongfully dismissed. That enabled us to see how well we could create trust again in the workforce. What we also did immediately to be able to reawaken and resuscitate the workforce, we quickly organized what we call a general staff retreat to just allow staff to pull out their hearts and tell us what is it that they were dissatisfied with and how we could address the situation. And so we hosted a staff retreat in May 2025 together with what we call a pause and reflect. That led to hearing from the staff, and we have a very common story called the rotten tomatoes. So every time you walk in NaFAA fence, you are asked whether you've taken away or thrown away your rotten tomatoes. When we assumed office, there were a lot of inefficiencies in operations. Generators were shut down when the head of the institution was not around. Offices were opened, staff were going to work from 10 o'clock in the morning and were leaving at 2 o'clock. Because obviously if you do not have power and internet connectivity, it was just useless for staff to be around. When we took over, we quickly instituted measures to ensure that staff were punctual. And so we commenced work from 8:30 in the morning to 5 o'clock, ensuring that power was stable. Internet connectivity was restored. We also introduced what we call the weekly technical meetings from senior managers. That meeting allows senior managers to provide the work plan for the week and report against their progress. That was a way to keep them moving on with their daily activities. We quickly also introduced what we call the general staff meeting monthly. At the general staff meeting, we then introduced the Staff of the Month Performance Award. And to date, we've been able to identify 7 of NaFAA staff who received that recognition on a monthly basis. Whether I'm around or not, that process goes on. And thanks to these great people seated here and all other staff. We had about 38 staff that were on contractual services from 2018-2019 up to 2024-5. That was inhuman. You cannot keep someone on contract for over 6 years. And so in our 2026 budget, we began allocating resources to ensure that after we've done evaluation of those staff, definitely we have them incorporated as permanent staff of NaFAA. We met in NaFAA wherein staff salaries were deducted based on required norms, that is through taxes, income taxes, and social security. But those taxes were never remitted to national government. Income taxes were deducted from staff, but never remitted. Social security withholdings were deducted, but never remitted. And so as at January, when we took over in March 2025, we began to do back payments for all withholding taxes to the Liberia Revenue Authority and NASCA. We are trying our best to become current before the end of the year because we have to pay back from January. And we believe that that was very critical to ensure that if staff begin to look for a retirement, definitely will have resources to take home. There have been several other recommendations provided to the previous administration to transition from the old traditional accounting system to a new one called the fisheries. 3 different audit recommendations instituted that, unfortunately, not one was adhered to. 2 months ago, we embarked on the process, recruited a firm to now transition from ASAP to fisheries, which is the new accounting system that has been recommended by the General Auditing Commission. I want to, in this public manner, officially thank the Internal Audit Agency for providing one of the best internal auditor at NaFAA. It can be really seen that we're beginning to put systems in place and beginning to do away with business as usual. Since NaFAA was established in 2017 by the act of the legislature and kicked off in 2018, staff were never benefiting from insurance. And so all staff at NaFAA were only given stipends of $75 every month for medical. We felt that that was not sufficient. We felt that staff needed to have well-covered insurance. And so when we took over, we quickly embarked on getting an insurance company to cover insurance at NaFAA. Starting December 1, 2025, all staff and their immediate family members will benefit from full insurance. We also had our seagoers, that is our observers who go on the vessel. They stay up to maybe 30 days, 45 days, because they want to make sure there are no illegal practices happening on those vessels. Those seagoers never had life insurance. As at December 1, 2025, all of our seagoers observers will have full life insurance to cover. When we assumed office There were other complications as it relates to providing permits, import permits to companies who were importing fish in Liberia. Those import permits took up to 3 weeks to be issued. When we took over, we saw a very low-hanging fruit. We quickly worked with our technicians and our staff to officially launch what we call the Fisheries Information Management System. That system was supported by the World Bank and developed in 2022, but was never utilized. And so we quickly launched it, allowing now vendors to get the import permits from 3 weeks to 48 hours. And so you do not have now to walk to NaFAA and ask for your bills. You can sit in the comfort of your home, the comfort of your offices, apply for your permit, and get your permit online. And so there's no middleman. No one telling you again, if you don't give me a small thing, I won't clear your permit. So we have to eradicate that. So the things have been launched and it's in full swing. That's a way to digitize our system and ensure that the issue of interferences with private companies, creating a business environment to be much more favorable. We are quickly redesigning the NaFAA website. Currently, when you visit the NaFAA website, you will find out that it is less interactive. And so we're working with our partners to see how we can make it much more friendly, more informative, and resourceful for our partners and others. We assume a workforce of 203 staff. 90% of them based in Montserrat. And so when you walk to our offices today, you will find people almost seated on each other. What we did quickly was to develop a decentralization plan and work with our partners to be able to start sourcing avenues for decentralization of our staff. Liberia has 9 coastal counties, and in those 9 coastal counties, we are actively in those counties. And we should be working with our fisher folks, providing them the needed services that they need, instead of sitting in Monrovia and then networking with them. And so, by June 2026, NaFAA will open its first regional office in Harper, Maryland County. The rationale for that is to be able to closely monitor the waters between Cote d'Ivoire and Liberia, where we are experiencing a lot of illegal fishing from migrant vessels coming in Liberia, depleting our resources and taking them back. And so we're going to establish a full fisheries monitoring center in Harper, Maryland County. We want to thank the superintendent in this manner for providing us an opportunity. We want to thank the World Bank, right, start the reconstruction of the NaFAA full office in Maryland. We've earmarked 4 different regional offices. So Maryland will be the first. We'll have another one in Bapulu, another one in Grand Bassa, and then another one coming up in Cape Mount. And those will be on a yearly basis as we source funding.